Hi, hockey fans, and welcome to the On the Blueline Hockey Podcast. I'm Phil Bernardi, and my partner Chad Van Dersen. Well, Chad couldn't make it today, so we're a little short-handed. We're playing some 5-on-4 penalty kill, but we'll still go on. I just want to put on a side note, congratulations to the Chicago Cubs, winning their first World Series since 1908. 1908. So for a lot of people, it was a happy night, Wednesday night on November 2nd. There were also some unhappy people. And those unhappy people were the Detroit Red Wing fans. I will say that Braden Shen crashing the net, that alone helped them win the game. Because they needed that goal, and man, they crashed the net. I think it was Franz Nielsen, if I'm not mistaken, pushing, well, not really pushing, directing Braden Shen into his goalie, Peter Mrazek. And all Mark Streit had to do was whoop, pick up the puck, and what did he hit? A goal with an empty net. And so they forced the 3-on-3 overtime, which, man, that is a doozy. And I can say that having played some 3-on-3 hockey, man, it looked like for a while, Thomas Tatar, Henrik Zetterberg, and Mike Green, we're going to control the puck for the whole game, and then Dylan Larkin comes and zooms around until crafty Jakob Voracek does a nice stick check, pops the puck out to Claude Giroux, who then gives him the one-timer for the goal on Mrazek. And what happens? Philly wins in overtime. And Detroit blew their 3-2 lead. Now, I'll have to say, as a goaltender, I was not happy with the Mrazek situation. But that's obviously not going to change unless circumstances within the game change, meaning the play. So it looked as though Franz Nielsen was trying to direct him away from his goalie, Peter Mrazek. Braden Shen being the player he was trying to direct away, and Braden Shen, being a power forward, looked as though, he was just doing his job and going to the net for a loose rebound, and oops, I fell. Well, I can't say oops, because he did really fall. I'm sure he didn't say oops. But they still had a chance to win it in overtime. Now the second game after that, in Montreal, by the way. Pardon me. Montreal cruised to a 3-0 win over Vancouver. Now Vancouver was playing again with Ryan Miller after having Markstrom tending the pipes. And Carey Price has won 6 wins in 6 games. Excuse me. I'm thinking of all kinds of stats. So we got Carey Price with the 6th win in 6 games and a shutout. Now, I can't exactly tell you off the top of my head, so I'll look it up about Carey Price's shutouts. But, the man, he has been playing some hockey. But that game, Montreal just is now cruising on all cylinders. Carey Price, in the season, he's only got 1 shutout, but his goals against is 1.17. If you're under 2 goals a game, your team's usually winning the game. And that proves just why Carey Price can be the best goalie in the game today. Now, of course, we had Henrik Lundqvist getting his 60th shutout. 60, count them, 60. On November 1st, I believe. And they won 5-0. And that game was not fair at all for the visitors, the Blues. Jake Allen didn't have a chance that game. He got pulled for Carter Hutton. But it's good seeing Lundqvist, not being up to form as a lot of people and himself have known him to be. So it's kind of good that it's it's a good game lifting his spirits up. But the story here is Jimmy Vesey. Whoo-wee. He looked like a man on fire. I mean, literally all the Rangers do it. And when was the last time the Rangers had 4 lines you could roll? 4. Usually you're just talking about the Blackhawks and the Penguins. I mean, we're talking about the Rangers here at 7-3. And 2 of those losses were on the road. So, I mean, we got things all over the place. And being a Thursday morning, our leaders in goals was Artem Anisimov with Stamkos. Anisimov, of course, being, I can't say really a benefactor, considering he does quite a bit of work being the center of the Panarin Anisimov Kane line for Chicago. But man, the dude, he's got 13 points and leads the league. I mean, his plus minus is 7, so he's doing some good stuff defensively as well. He won't keep up this pace, but I can see other players, catching up point wise, especially goal wise. I mean, we have Stamkos and Ovechkin and some other guys right hot on this tracks. I mean, Voracek's right up there, but for league leaders in points, we got McDavid. Is right behind there. A lot of guys stuck at 12 and 11. But the top 2 are Claude Giroux of the Philadelphia Flyers and Artem Anisimov of the Chicago Blackhawks. So some teams have been doing good, some haven't. I mean, Claude Giroux is -6, -6. And then you see up off plus 7. That just tells you where some teams are at. And what I'm saying where some teams are at, we will check the standings as of Thursday morning. I mean, in the division, pardon me, we got the Flyers in the middle of the pack there in the Metropolitan Division, and Pittsburgh leading the Metropolitan 15 points at 7-2-1. And man, they creamed the Anaheim Ducks last night 5-1, and it just, those Ducks, man, I said it last time, and Chad, can allude to it. This Ducks team just, something does not look good. I mean, something just does not look good. I mean, as we talked about last week, Gibson, can be sort of a weak link. But man, there were some last night where he just could not be helped. And his team could not get out of their own way. And some other teams that can't get out of their own way, I mean, you got Buffalo. Now they just lost Zach Bogosian to MCL sprain. And I think he's going to be out about 6 weeks. Could be longer. But that division, is pretty tight, except for their division leader Montreal with 19 points. They're 9-0-1. They really benefited from having Al Montoya give them a hot start. Carey Price wasn't doing so hot health wise. But now we'll shift it over to the Western Conference, and we got a tie in the Central Division with the Hawks and the Minnesota Wild. They both got the same record, 60-1. I gotta say, with the Blues hot on their trail and the surprising Avalanche at 4-4 with 8 points, I mean, the division is pretty tight. It's a pretty tight division, especially when you got Winnipeg playing well now. I mean, they haven't been their best. They're 4-6. But, I mean, expect Dallas to pull ahead of Colorado. I think Colorado is going to maybe go downhill within these next few games. But, every team's got their ups and downs throughout the season. And here in the Pacific Division, we got the Oilers leading. Of course, I mean, they are just on fire. McDavid looks like a man possessed ever since he became captain this year. Youngest captain in the history of the league. And they're 7-2-1. Cam Talbot with those 7 wins. I mean, having McDavid and Cam Talbot do not hurt. Cam Talbot is a good goalie this year. I mean, he has been playing. I mean, Lundqvist has not been playing his best, his elite best, but I'd say they'd be playing the same. Well, now we're gonna do our 2 minutes in the sin bin, and this time we're not gonna be doing any sinning at all. We're gonna be talking about one story that touched us all around the league, and that's Craig Anderson and his wife Nicole with cancer. I mean, he has taken another leave of absence, deservingly so, from the Ottawa Senators. And man, one game he came back and he just shut out the Buffalo. He shut out the Edmonton Oilers, 2-0. And Cam Talbot actually came out and applauded him for being the first star of the game, and that was actually a good gesture. And that's why hockey, is one of the best sports on this planet, the sportsmanship. So congratulations, Craig. I've known you for a while. With the goalie came together. Congratulations, bud. And I hope your wife Nicole gets well. Now, it looks like they just scored a goal. I hate to say it, so I'm out of the sin bin. My 2 minutes for hooking was cut short by a power play goal. I was only in the box for about a minute 15, minute 20 at most. So we're going to get to the schedule here. Now, Saturday's got some big tilts. Big tilts. Especially with the divisional games. I mean, we got Minnesota, Colorado right there. And Buffalo at Ottawa, that's also another division matchup. That's the Atlantic Division. And Tampa Bay with New Jersey. I mean, Tampa Bay hasn't been doing too bad. And neither is New Jersey. Both are, middle of the pack in both their respective divisions. This is a non-divisional matchup, but this is a game that I can, say that could get away from Tampa Bay. And we have Edmonton visiting the Islanders in Brooklyn. I don't know how well the Islanders are going to do with Connor McDavid. But I have a little bit of soft spot for this Islanders team. Their defense hops up into the play and everyone comes back defensively. And, of course, my partner on the show, Chad Van Duersen, he is a big John Tavares fan. And I will say it again for about the remainder of the year. Unless he wins the Hart Trophy, he is underrated. I mean, Columbus at St. Louis. Ooh. There's another Central Division matchup. Then we got a couple of West Coasters. LA is hosting Calgary and San Jose is hosting Pittsburgh. But that should be a good game. Chicago and Dallas, that'll be a good divisional matchup. Hopefully Dallas can hop off to a fast start against the Hawks because they're going to need it. I don't know who's in net yet. But, it's Saturday, November 5th. So it could be Niemi, it could be Lettinen. They got a good tandem. Sunday we got some games. A lot of people pay attention to football, but we here on the Blueline podcast, we pay attention to hockey. And so we got Winnipeg at New York Rangers. Again, Dallas at Chicago. So Dallas is hosting Chicago on Saturday, and on Sunday they're going to do a home and home. So that should also be a good one. Look to see that as a revenge game. And then Calgary moves over to Anaheim. Monday, not too much. Buffalo and Boston. That's also a division game, an Atlantic Division matchup. Boston can't afford to start losing points, especially in the division, to Buffalo. As much as I loved the Sabres, still do, I will always have a spot in my heart for the Sabres. But man, the Sabres team is starting to get depleted. They sometimes don't look well, even though they pulled off a win in Winnipeg the other night. They just do not look well. Tuesday's got some big games also. We got Detroit at Philly. Man, I wonder if there'll be any leftover feelings between the teams of how the game last night ended on Wednesday the 2nd. Also on Tuesday, November 3rd, we got Boston and Montreal. That is a rivalry. This goes back to the original six. The original six. What can you say about those franchises? They're doing great this year. I mean, the Rangers are atop their division. The Hawks won numerous cups. We got Boston who won a cup. We got the Leafs are resurgent. I mean, they're last in the Atlantic Division, but there's a lot to hope for with Austin Matthews there. But we're not talking about the Leafs. We're talking about Montreal. Basically, the New York Yankees hockey. I mean, they have 24 Stanley Cups. In over 100 years of hockey, that organization's been around. They've won 24 cups. That's one every 4 years. I mean, they haven't won since 1993, but it's still a pretty good statistic. Excuse me, I have a sip of water there. Gets thirsty playing this game. So look for that to be a rumble and tumble game. Boston and Montreal. And then the last game, the snoozer, Arizona and Colorado. The only reason I say snoozer is because both teams aren't too hot. I mean, we got Arizona at the bottom of their division in the Pacific with 6 points. They're 3-6. We got Colorado with 8 points. They're 4-4, and it's a 9 p.m. Central Time team start. So expect that one to not turn out too well, but you never know in this league. That's one thing about the NHL is sometimes some teams can surprise you, and other times others can, be as predictive as possible. Next Wednesday, we have Chicago at St. Louis, and that's going to be a Wednesday night rivalry game. I can tell you that already. Those games have turned out great this year. I mean, I can't stop raving about Jake Allen, even though he got lit up for 4 goals on 20 shots against the Rangers the other night. But he's been a revelation for them this year. I don't know what it is. Maybe he just found a groove and he's sticking in it. And I think the Blues are too as a team. So we'll see how they do. Now, I think a lot of the goalies haven't been doing so well this year. But I mean, you expected Martin Jones to do well as being a Stanley Cup finalist for the San Jose Sharks, but he hasn't been doing so hot. Pecorine, Tuukka Rask. It's nice that Craig Anderson's been doing so well, but now they have Andrew Hammond and Mike Condon in net, so we're not sure how Ottawa will do. And then what looks like a tire fire down in Philly, you have Mike Smith and Louis Domingue. So we're going to see how some of these goalies do for their respective teams. The NHL has their top 5 ranked fantasy goalies. They have Martin Jones as number 5. Now, I don't know if I totally agree with this, but I do agree with Carey Price at number 1, Holtby at number 2, Dubnyk number 3, Schneider number 4 of the Devils, Martin Jones number 5 of the Sharks. I like Dubnyk from Minnesota. He's been keeping them in the games lately. Minnesota's not talked about team too much. We haven't really hit them yet on this podcast. But being the division leader, I believe, they've been doing a lot of smart stuff. They play a division game against the Avalanche Saturday, November 5th. They can, pick up a couple points. But like I said, I mean, Parise, Ryan Suter on defense. They got some good players. Michael Granlund's a young guy. Charlie Coyle. They got Eric Stahl now. Marco Scandella on defense. But I just got to say, Dubnik's just been the rock back there. And as a goalie should, he needs to. But after that, there's some other teams that are pretty well off right now with the goalie situation. I would say Montreal with Carey Price now coming back. St. Louis doesn't have to worry about their starter. I'd say that you don't know what you're going to get out of Carolina's goalies and Cam Ward and Eddie Lack. Cam Ward's now the backup. And although Ben Bishop has been doing better, I mean, they need Andrei Vasilevsky, the backup, to really spell him in spots when he's not playing. Halak and Grice just haven't looked great for the New York Islanders, but it really is a team game in hockey. And the Islanders have been playing some tough teams. They're in a tough division. I mean, when you have big powerhouses like the Penguins, Rangers, Flyers, and Capitals, you're going to get pounded a couple times. There's going to be a couple, 4 or 5 goal differential games. So they've been doing, necessarily well, but not as well as they, have been projected. Same with Florida. They have Roberto Luongo in net, but they also have Jaromir Jagr, Vincent Trocheck, who's turned out to be a very good player for them. Aaron Ekblad, defenseman. He's big, strong, young boy. And that's what you need out of a defenseman. Big, strong lad. Not to be confused with Angelad, which I know Chad would make a little quip about. And now we're approaching about the last 5 minutes of the game. So we're going to talk a little more off the cuff. In the Western Division, I don't see Winnipeg doing anything really that much this year. I could be wrong. Of course, every team has to take a step back, albeit Nashville, they could take one. But you never know. I mean, how long can Edmonton keep up this hot streak? I mean, they're 15 points. You got San Jose, you got Anaheim and Vancouver and Calgary and LA all on your tail. I mean, in between first and sixth, which is Edmonton to LA, I mean, it's a 7-point differential, but those 7 points are easy, especially if you can play them in the division. And divisional matchup games are huge. We have some players, that are on the Kings. Andrew Kopitar, a podcast favorite for being a great defensive forward. They just need to get some more goals out of them. I mean, it doesn't help that they play Pittsburgh tonight. And Pittsburgh coming off that hot 5-1 trounce of the Ducks. So we'll see what Pittsburgh has in store. But man, the Kings just do not look good without Jonathan Quick. That fact is just not going to go away. So I mean, there's going to be some teams that are a kicking stick for some other top teams. Yeah. Is Edmonton one of them? I don't think so this year. I think Edmonton's going to do pretty well. Vancouver, I think, has been a surprise to me. You got the Sedin twins, Henrik and Daniel, have been there forever. But who else do you got there? Like Ben Horvat, Chris Tanev. I mean, you got an old Ryan Miller in that with a backup of Jakob Markstrom, who did phenomenal for his qualities. while Miller was out with an injury. But how long will the Canucks last up there? I mean, I think they're due for a little tumble down a rough patch. I think Colorado's the same way. I'm an Avalanche fan, and I'm not too hopeful this year. I guess I'm not trying to get my hopes up, but I just don't think they're going to do well this year, given last year was such a disaster. And now with the new coaching change, now I can see St. Louis coming back top to the division. It's going to be a crazy three-headed monster there in the Central Division. You know, with Minnesota and St. Louis and Chicago, man. St. Louis just looks like a different beast this year, and it's very easy to see, very. And then in the Eastern Conference, of course, you got the defending Stanley Cup champions, the Pittsburgh Penguins, who right now just got Matt Murray back off an injury. They're leading their division, the Metropolitan, with 15 points. Close on the heels are the Rangers with 14 and the Capitals with 13. No interdivision games coming up yet. But I will say that the Rangers got to keep up their hot pace if they want to, win this division or get a great nice playoff spot. Lundqvist has got to pick it up. He hasn't been playing his elite best. But how much can you really depend on a goalie when you got to score goals? Excuse me. Now, Montreal also just got back to goalie, and their goalie's an elite goalie. I'm not saying Matt Murray's not elite, but Carey Price, proven to be elite. And they are 9-0-1 with 19 points. It looks like they're going to keep a nice little cushion for now in the Atlantic Division. But there's going to be, a tough stretch coming up for every team. And I can see them going through one. Galchenyuk, Gallagher. They lost Lars Eller. They have Andrew Shaw as a forward now. They have Shea Weber, who's I think maybe has turned that defense around and helped them become more defensive than PK Subban had. PK Subban, obviously a great talent, but I'm not sure his talents fit the scheme that Montreal was trying to do and minimize Carey Price's work. It looked like he was getting a little overworked, and now he's later in his career. So, he needs to get some limited action. It didn't help that he, didn't hurt and didn't help. He did miss some action, some time at the beginning of the season. But, final Carey Price, he's going to bounce back and keep it right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I wish my partner Chad Van Dursen could have been here for the On the Blueline Hockey podcast. But we have some great games coming up. Don't forget about Saturday. There's nearly every team in the league looks like they're playing. And especially Saturday, Sunday, home and home with the Stars and Blackhawks. I think that's going to be a great matchup this weekend. Next week, Tuesday, we also have a busy game day. Vancouver at the Rangers, Detroit at Philly. Like I said, that game I wonder if some tempers are going to still be there. San Jose at Washington should be a good game. Now that's a 7 o'clock Central Time start, so it'll be 8 o'clock, or 6 o'clock, Eastern Time. I'm getting my time zones confused. But I think they'll do pretty well. So that matchup will be pretty well. And of course you have Boston and Montreal at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. And that game is always going to be a hot game, and we'll see how the Bruins can handle the Canadians, and let's see if the Canadians can hold up, the offensive production. But for myself, Phil Bernardi, my partner, missing from the lineup tonight, Chad Van Dursen, this is Phil Bernardi, and I just want to say au revoir. Thank you, hockey listeners, for tuning in again to the On the Blueline Hockey Podcast. We'll be with you again next week. We hope you enjoy the matchups this weekend. And, of course, a busy Tuesday on November 8th. with a bunch of teams of yours playing. And so just get ready for some hockey action. Take care, everyone.